I now call on the representative of Armenia.
Thank you, Mr. President. I requested the floor to exercise the right to reply to the delegation of Azerbaijan. We regret that despite the forward-looking call of the Prime Minister of Armenia to normalize relations, despite the recent round of ministerial negotiations that took place just 2 days ago, Azerbaijan used this august body not only to express reluctance on normalizing relations with Armenia, but opted to propagate its usual distortions and allegations. Dear colleagues, nevertheless, let me once again reaffirm that Armenia is committed to achieving a just and lasting peace in the region and has engaged in negotiations to normalize the relations with Azerbaijan based on the international law, including the principles of sovereignty and territorial integrity. However, we are yet to see the same level of commitment and good faith from the Azerbaijani side. In response to all efforts toward the settlement of the long-term conflict, Azerbaijan continues to present new, unsubstantiated, and illegitimate claims to Armenia. The allegation that the Constitution of Armenia contains territorial claims against Azerbaijan is entirely false and has been refuted on a number of occasions. It is strange to hear allegations on military buildup from a country that for decades has engaged in uncontrolled and unabated accumulation of offensive weaponry in violation of literally all its obligations under regional arms control treaties. The military buildup of Azerbaijan resulted in acts of aggression with heavy toll on the civilian population, atrocity crimes, mass displacement, and destruction of critical civilian infrastructure. Armenia is exercising its sovereign right to strengthen its defense capabilities in line with international law. We have stressed a number of times that we don't have territorial claims against any of our neighbors, and we do not plan any aggressive action against any of them. We regret that Azerbaijan continues to spread false allegations on mines as a sheer distortion and propaganda that was twice rejected by the International Court of Justice. Azerbaijan has consistently used the humanitarian demining activities to create a pretext to justify its aggressive actions against Armenia and numerous atrocity crimes. During the past 4 years, Armenia has unilaterally provided all available maps of mined areas in its possession as a humanitarian gesture. The Armenian side also has expressed readiness to support the decoding of the transferred maps in cooperation with international partners. By contrast, Azerbaijan continues to violate its obligations under the international humanitarian law and the orders of the International Court of Justice. The international community should be cognizant of the fact that the country hosting the COP29 is yet to release the Armenian hostages held for more than 1 year in captivity and address the remaining humanitarian issues. At the same time, the issue of missing persons and enforced disappearances remains high on our agenda as well. There are more than 1,000 Armenians missing as a result of the conflict. We do believe that the issue of all missing persons should be addressed. The Armenian Relevant Commission on Missing Persons has numerously suggested to hold meetings to this end that were rejected by Azerbaijani side. We call on Azerbaijan to abide by its illegal obligations under the international law and international humanitarian law, to release all the Armenian hostages held for more than 1 year in captivity, and to create a conducive environment for long-lasting regional peace and cooperation. We call upon the United Nations and its member states to firmly respond to the noncompliance by Azerbaijan with its obligations and ensure that the attempt of this country to whitewash gross violations of human rights and humanitarian law through holding international events will not be tolerated. Mr. President, the concept of so-called Western Azerbaijan reveals the territorial claims of Azerbaijan towards the sovereign territory of Armenia, including its capital. Through such fake historical contrasts and weaponizing history, Azerbaijan intends to create a pretext to continue its policy of use of force in the region. Through these manipulations, Azerbaijan attempts to distract the attention of the international community from the ethnic cleansing and forced displacement of 115,000 people, the entire indigenous population of Nagorno-Karabakh, from its ancestral homeland 1 year ago. Interestingly, Azerbaijani minister failed to mention that Azerbaijanis who left Armenia during the collapse of the Soviet Union did it voluntarily. Furthermore, they received compensations in comparison to 360,000 Armenians who were forced to leave their homes and property as a result of state-orchestrated pogroms in Baku, Sumgait, Kiroabad, and other cities of Azerbaijan. The baseless claims regarding cultural heritage are an attempt to divert attention from the destruction, desecration, appropriation of millennia-old Armenian cultural heritage and acts of vandalism committed by Azerbaijan in Nagorno-Karabakh and prior to that in Nakhichevan. The delegation of Azerbaijan needs to be reminded that the International Court of Justice, in a legally binding order issued on 7 December 2021, mandated Azerbaijan to, and I quote, take all necessary measures to prevent and punish acts of vandalism and desecration towards Armenian cultural heritage, including churches and other places of worship, monuments, landmarks, cemeteries, and artifacts, end of the quote. Till now, Azerbaijan continues to deny the deployment of a UNESCO mission to conduct an inventory of the cultural property in Nagorno-Karabakh in an attempt to hide its state-led campaign of systemic destruction of the historic Armenian legacy of Nagorno-Karabakh, following the ethnic cleansing and forced displacement of its entire indigenous population. And I thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.